Our company was the most laid back in the neighborhood. The guys and I had been friends since school, and despite what people said, we never drifted apart. We kept in touch through everything. Universities sending us to different cities, the army, and even starting families. Somehow, we still managed to meet up a couple of times a year. At first, it was just the five of us, but eventually, our wives joined in too. I trusted these guys completely, without question. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine that one of them would betray me or our friendship. Out of the five of us, only Liam and I were still single, though not for much longer. My wedding was coming up, and that day, we were also celebrating my engagement to Harper. Ethan, the oldest and most experienced married guy among us, raised his glass and spoke up. "Let me tell you something from my own experience, guys," he said with a knowing grin. "You can't base a marriage solely on intimacy. Understanding and trust, that's everything. Anyway, let's save the big toast for the wedding, or we'll run out of things to say." We laughed as we all raised our glasses. I glanced at Harper and noticed how quickly she finished her drink. It wasn't strong wine, but even a little was enough to go to her head. I remembered the night we met at the club. I had bought her a cocktail, then another. There had been great music, incredible dances, and an unforgettable night together. The next morning, she was adorably embarrassed, blushing as she apologized, saying she didn't usually behave that way. She mentioned she had just defended her diploma the day before. I had laughed it off, and somehow, that day marked the beginning of us moving in together. Harper wasn't much of a drinker, but when she did indulge, she'd get tipsy fast and turn into the life of the party. It didn't happen often, though. Watching her now, I wondered briefly if I should slow her down or just let her enjoy the moment. Ethan's voice brought me back to the present, and I decided to let it be. She wasn't a little girl anymore. Time flew as everyone relaxed and enjoyed the day. Some were eating kebabs, others swam. And as the evening turned to dusk, Liam, our last true bachelor, started building a fire. Harper sat next to him, chatting animatedly, her eyes sparkling with excitement. At some point, I saw Harper hug Liam. Looks like she's had enough booze for tonight, I thought, and decided to head over to them. "Hey, lovebirds!" I called out teasingly. Both of them jumped at the sound of my voice. Harper turned to me with a sheepish smile. "Henry," she sang, struggling to get up from the ground. "Let's get some rest," I said gently, wrapping an arm around her waist to steady her and guiding her toward the guest house. "I don't want to," she protested, pulling away. "Now we're going to sing songs and play games." "Play games?" "Harper, we're not 5 years old anymore," I replied, shaking my head. "Don't be a party pooper," she said, giving me a playful slap on the shoulder before spinning around and walking off toward the girls. I watched her with a frown as she poured herself another glass of wine. Despite my concerns, Harper seemed to be behaving decently, at least for now. But then, things took a turn. Someone, I can't even recall who, suggested we play truth or dare. The rules were simple. If you refused to answer a question, you drank. If you asked a question, you drank too. At first, it was harmless fun with silly, quirky questions like, "What's your favorite dish?" or "Do you watch adult movies?" But as the night wore on and the drinks kept flowing, the questions started to get bolder. Harper, already tipsy, was swaying in her seat. When it was our turn, I decided to keep the mood light and asked, "Who's your lover?" laughing as I did. "Liam," Harper screamed, her voice ringing out in the silence. The room froze. She clamped a hand over her mouth in shock, as if trying to take back the word. I stared at her, hoping it was a drunken joke, but the look in her eyes, one of panic, and the way she glanced at Liam told me otherwise. Liam's reaction sealed it. He bolted upright, his chair screeching against the ground. I'm not one to pick fights or lose control, but something inside me snapped. My vision blurred with rage as I charged at Liam. Harper screamed, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw the other wives pulling her away. The guys shouted, trying to stop me, but I couldn't hear them. My fists connected with Liam's face, again and again, fueled by a fury I didn't know I had. His bloodied face and the grass beneath us blurred together as I kept hitting him, consumed by rage. At some point, I scared even myself. The intensity of my anger was overwhelming. Finally, the others managed to pull me away, dragging me back as I tried to calm myself before things escalated further. Liam, bruised and bloodied, spat onto the ground. "You fool. All this over a woman," he muttered, his teeth stained red with blood. I wish Liam hadn't said that. His words only reignited the fire in me, and before I could think, I swung at him again. My mind was a storm of betrayal. How could he do this? How could she do this? Enough! Stop! Avery, Ethan's wife, rushed toward us. Her voice cut through the chaos, and I froze. I had no choice but to hold back. I couldn't let my anger harm her. She dropped to her knees beside Liam, her hands trembling as she wiped his bloodied face with a damp cloth. "What the hell is going on?" Ethan barked. He stood a few feet away, his expression a mixture of anger and pain, watching as our group fell apart. "This is insane," I snapped, my voice shaking with bitter laughter. "What's next? Have you been messing around with all our wives?" The words sounded absurd, like something out of a bad soap opera, but the disbelief didn't make the situation any less real. Liam didn't respond. He just avoided my eyes, his silence deafening. Eventually, Avery helped him up, her arm supporting his weight. They left quietly, taking a taxi straight to the hospital. Later, I heard that Liam told the police he wouldn't press charges. That was the last time I saw either of them. No apologies, no explanations. They just disappeared. The rest of us packed up and went home in silence. No one said a word. No goodbyes. Nothing. Ethan and I stayed behind by the dying campfire, sitting there like broken men, licking our wounds that we'd been through a lot together over the years, but nothing like this. This wasn't something we knew how to fix. Liam never came back. I heard he moved to another city. He didn't apologize, not to me, not to anyone. He just vanished. Maybe it was for the best. I honestly didn't trust myself if I ever saw him again. Avery and Ethan didn't make it through the fallout. They got divorced not long after that night. Their kids were devastated, struggling to understand why their parents had suddenly become strangers to each other. Harper tried to apologize. She rambled on about how Liam had taken advantage of her while she was tipsy. But no matter how many excuses she gave, she couldn't answer the one question that haunted me. When and why were you drinking with him in the first place? That one reckless, drunken night tore apart two families and a friendship that had lasted for years. It left nothing but secrets, shattered trust, and a painful lesson I'll never forget.